Chosen one, you did not arrive on this earth by accident, and you are not here to simply exist, survive, or pass time until life ends. There was a divine intention written into your soul before your name was ever spoken by human lips. Before your story began in this physical world, your purpose was already known in the unseen realm. And whether you realize it or not, this moment right now is part of that design. This is your only job on earth, and that job is not small, not ordinary, not replaceable. Your job is to awaken, to rise, to remember who you truly are beneath fear, doubt, failure, and delay. Because the world trained you to forget, but the divine never forgot you. Every breath you take is evidence that your assignment is still active and unfinished. If your life felt easy, you would never search for meaning. If everything came quickly, you would never build strength. And if the path were clear, you would never learn faith. This is why resistance followed you. This is why confusion tried to slow you down. This is why people misunderstood you, doubted you, walked away from you, and sometimes even betrayed you. Not because you were weak, but because you were different. Because something powerful rests on your life and pressure is always applied where value exists. You were shaped in silence, built in moments no one clapped for, refined in seasons where prayers felt unanswered and effort felt invisible. Yet every delay was alignment, and every disappointment was redirection. The divine was never ignoring you. It was strengthening your foundation so you could hold what is coming. There is a reason your spirit never felt satisfied with surface-level living. There is a reason routine felt heavy and comfort felt empty. That inner restlessness was not confusion. It was a calling, a signal that your soul was ready for more, ready to move beyond survival into purpose. You were not created to shrink yourself to fit broken systems. You were not created to live in fear of opinions, and you were not created to wait for permission to be who you are. This is your only job on earth, to walk in truth even when it is uncomfortable, to choose growth even when it is lonely, to believe even when evidence is missing. Because faith is not believing when it is easy, it is standing firm when everything around you says quit. The divine does not rush processes, because what is being built inside you matters more than how fast you arrive. Patience is not punishment, it is preparation. Discipline is not restriction, it is protection. And struggle is not a sign of failure. It is proof that transformation is happening. You are closer than you think, even if it does not feel like it. The seed breaks before the tree rises. Darkness always comes before dawn, and silence always comes before a breakthrough. Your only job is to keep going, to stay aligned, to guard your mind, to protect your energy, and to remember that what you are becoming is greater than what you have been through. The world may not see it yet, but heaven already recognizes it. And the moment you stop doubting yourself and start trusting the process is the moment everything begins to shift. This is not a coincidence. This message found you because you were ready to hear it. Your time is not over. Your purpose is not lost. And your story is still unfolding. This is your only job on earth, and you are exactly where you need to be. Within the silence where most people quit, your real journey was quietly beginning, not announced, not celebrated, but deeply ordained. Because purpose never enters loudly. It enters subtly, testing whether you are paying attention or merely existing. And while the world measured success by speed and applause, the divine measured readiness by endurance and inner alignment. This is why your path felt slower, heavier, and often misunderstood, because what you carry cannot be rushed or cheaply earned. You were being prepared in layers, stripped of illusions, detached from false attachments, and taught to stand alone without feeling abandoned. Every season that felt empty was actually removing distractions. Every delay was teaching you discernment, and every unanswered moment was sharpening your inner voice. This is your only job on earth, and it does not require perfection. It requires presence, awareness, and courage to continue even when motivation fades. Most people wait to feel ready before they move. But chosen souls move while trembling, trusting that clarity follows commitment, not the other way around. You were never meant to blend in or disappear into comfort. You were designed to disrupt patterns simply by being authentic, to remind others of truth without preaching, to carry calm into chaos and direction into confusion. And this responsibility explains why life demanded maturity from you early, why you had to grow up fast emotionally, why you learned lessons others avoided. Not because life was unfair, but because your assignment was heavier. Your spirit is older than your age, and your vision extends beyond your current environment, which is why settling felt like suffocation and routine drained your energy. Your discomfort was not ingratitude, it was misalignment. The soul always reacts when it is not being used correctly. This is why you felt an invisible pull toward meaning, toward growth, toward something more even when you could not name it. The divine communicates through inner nudges long before external confirmation appears, and ignoring those nudges creates restlessness, anxiety, and emptiness, while honoring them activates peace even before results show up. This is your only job on earth, to listen inwardly louder than you listen outwardly, to trust the quiet knowing over the noisy opinions, to choose integrity over approval, and growth over familiarity. Because familiarity can be comfortable, but it can also be a cage, and you were not born to live imprisoned by fear of change. Every time you chose healing over bitterness, awareness over reaction, and patience over impulse, you aligned yourself closer to your true role. Progress is not always visible, but it is always occurring when intention is pure. The divine does not waste effort or suffering. Everything you endured was building capacity, strength, and discernment for the season ahead, and even now while you question timing, the timing is quietly working in your favor. Roots grow in darkness long before trees appear above ground, and no one celebrates the root system even though it determines how high the tree can rise. You are building roots, emotional roots, spiritual roots, mental roots. So when elevation arrives, you do not collapse under pressure. This is why you had to learn patience, boundaries, self-respect, and resilience the hard way. Because what you are moving toward demands stability. Your only job is not to chase outcomes, but to remain aligned, consistent, and grounded. Results follow alignment naturally, and when doubt tries to speak, remember, doubt always gets louder before breakthrough. Confusion increases when transformation is near, and fatigue appears when growth is accelerating. This is not the time to stop, shrink, or settle. This is the time to stay present, protect your focus, and keep walking even without applause. Because the moment you fully trust your process is the moment resistance begins to dissolve. Your journey is not late, broken, or wasted. It is precise, intentional, and unfolding exactly as required. And long after others rush and burn out, you will stand rooted, clear, and prepared. This is your only job on earth, and you are still exactly where you are meant to be. Beyond the point where certainty dissolves and logic stops offering comfort, a quieter wisdom begins to guide you, one that cannot be explained but only recognized. And this is where your real responsibility awakens. Because the divine never hands instructions in complete sentences. It speaks through intuition, through repetition of signs, through the persistent feeling that you are meant for more than repetition and survival. You were trained to look outside for validation while your true authority was always internal, waiting for you to trust it. Every time you ignored your inner signal to remain safe or accepted, life responded with pressure, not as punishment but as correction. Because misalignment always creates friction. This is your only job on earth, to realign again and again until your outer actions match your inner truth. Growth is not a straight ascent. It is a series of honest adjustments, and each adjustment requires humility, patience, and courage. You were never behind. You were learning depth while others chased speed. You were learning substance while others collected noise, and this difference will matter more than you realize, especially in moments when chaos surrounds you and others look for direction. You will not lead by volume or dominance, but by stability, clarity, and presence. Your calm will speak louder than instructions, your consistency louder than promises, and your integrity louder than ambition. This is why shortcuts never worked for you, and why temporary rewards always felt hollow. Your spirit rejects what cannot last. You were designed to build things that endure, not impress briefly. And endurance is forged through discipline no one sees, choices no one applauds, and restraint when impulse demands reaction. Many people confuse stillness with stagnation, but stillness is where alignment sharpens and intention becomes precise. This is where you learned to observe rather than react, to respond rather than explode, to conserve energy rather than waste it. Proving points to people committed to misunderstanding you. Wisdom matures when the need to explain yourself fades, and peace arrives when you stop negotiating your worth with external opinions. Your value was never up for debate. It was assigned, and no amount of rejection can revoke what was divinely placed within you. As awareness deepens and excuses lose their power, You begin to notice how responsibility quietly replaces blame. And this shift is not dramatic, but irreversible, because once you see clearly, you can no longer pretend. The divine does not demand grand gestures, it asks for truthful movement step after step, choice after choice, even when no one is watching, and this is where many turn back. Not because the path is wrong, but because consistency exposes habits that comfort once protected. Yet protection that limits growth eventually becomes a prison, and you were never meant to negotiate with stagnation. You were meant to outgrow it. This is why discomfort returns whenever you attempt to settle below your capacity. Your spirit resists contraction. It remembers expansion, it recognizes freedom, and it insists on progress even when progress feels slow. Your only job on earth is not to impress the timeline, but to honor alignment, to move in rhythm with inner truth rather than external pressure. Because pressure produces speed, but alignment produces direction, and direction determines destination. Many confuse busyness with purpose, but motion without intention is noise, and silence with intention is power. You learn to value depth over display, substance over approval, and clarity over applause. These preferences were not learned. They were remembered, activated through experiences that stripped false ambition and revealed authentic desire. You do not seek elevation to escape others. You seek elevation to serve truthfully, to contribute meaningfully, to stand as evidence that patience builds outcomes noise cannot. This is why comparison exhausted you, why imitation felt hollow, and why shortcuts never satisfied. Your design does not respond to borrowed frameworks. It responds to authenticity. And authenticity requires courage because it refuses to hide behind trends. Your life will not mirror popular stories. It will carve its own pattern quietly, steadily, unmistakably. You will recognize progress not through validation but through internal coherence. The sense that thoughts, actions, and values are no longer in conflict. This coherence produces peace. Not passive peace, but resilient peace. The kind that remains intact during uncertainty, and uncertainty will visit again. Not to test your worth, but to test your trust. Because trust matures when certainty is removed. You were trained to rely on discernment rather than prediction, to respond rather than panic, and to remain present rather than catastrophize. These skills will soon prove essential as responsibility expands. Responsibility does not always look like leadership. Sometimes it looks like restraint, discernment, and choosing the long-term benefit over immediate relief. You are learning to think in seasons rather than moments, to build structures rather than reactions, and to invest energy where return is sustainable. This maturity did not arrive accidentally. It was cultivated through repeated disappointments that taught you what not to chase, through closed opportunities that clarified standards, and through solitude that strengthened self-trust. Solitude refined your inner dialogue, replacing self-criticism with observation, and observation with intention. You no longer rush to fill silence because silence now informs you. It reveals priorities, exposes misalignment, and invites recalibration. Recalibration is not regression, it is refinement, and refinement precedes expansion. Your only job is to remain teachable without becoming doubtful, confident without becoming rigid, and ambitious without becoming disconnected. Balance is your advantage, not intensity, and balance requires awareness. Renewed daily, you will be tempted to overextend, to prove readiness through exhaustion. But endurance is not built through depletion. It is built through sustainable rhythm. You are not designed to burn brightly and disappear. You were designed to remain effective, relevant, and grounded over time. The divine invests in longevity, not spectacle, and longevity requires boundaries, rest, and discernment as much as effort. You are learning that saying no is sometimes the highest form of commitment, and that focus multiplies outcomes more than effort ever could. This understanding will shift how you allocate time, attention, and energy, gradually simplifying your life while expanding your impact. Simplicity is not reduction. It is precision, removing what dilutes effectiveness, so what remains can flourish, and flourish it will, not loudly, not suddenly, but undeniably. Your presence will begin to influence spaces without explanation. Your decisions will stabilize environments, and your clarity will invite trust, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. This embodiment marks the transition from preparation to application, and application requires patience equal to preparation. Growth accelerates when pressure meets readiness, and readiness is cultivated quietly, consistently, internally. You are closer to application than you think, but closeness still requires humility, discipline, and faith. Faith, not as belief without action, but as action without certainty, moving forward while outcomes remain unseen. This movement activates momentum, and momentum reveals doors previously hidden by doubt. Your only job on earth remains unchanged even as responsibilities evolve. Stay aligned, remain present, choose integrity, and continue forward with intention. Everything else organizes itself around that commitment when intention stabilizes and distractions lose authority. You begin to experience a different quality of time, not rushed, not stagnant, but purposeful, as if moments themselves cooperate with your direction. This is not luck. It is alignment expressing itself through rhythm. Because life responds when clarity replaces confusion. You stop forcing outcomes and start positioning yourself correctly, and correct position reduces resistance naturally. Your only job on earth is to keep returning to that position even after setbacks. Because setbacks do not cancel alignment. They reveal areas requiring reinforcement. Reinforcement is built through reflection rather than regret, through adjustment rather than self-judgment. You are learning to evaluate without condemning, to correct without collapsing. And this emotional literacy becomes leverage. Many never develop it and remain reactive, exhausting themselves fighting symptoms instead of addressing structure. You are restructuring internally, replacing impulsive patterns with intentional responses, and this shift quietly compounds. Decisions become cleaner, priorities clearer, and boundaries firmer without becoming rigid. Firmness without rigidity is wisdom. It allows movement without compromise, and compromise of core values was never your assignment. You were meant to negotiate methods, not principles. This distinction protects your integrity. As responsibility increases, responsibility will arrive disguised as opportunity, invitation, or pressure, and discernment will be required to accept what aligns and decline what distracts. Distraction often appears productive, urgent, or flattering, but alignment feels calm, focused, and demanding in a sustainable way. You are training your nervous system to recognize this difference, to trust calm over adrenaline and clarity over chaos. Chaos can be addictive. It creates the illusion of importance, but importance without direction produces burnout. You were shaped to value effectiveness over appearance, impact over attention, and contribution over validation. These preferences were carved through experience, through watching outcomes fail when built on urgency alone, and succeed when anchored in patience. Patience is not passivity. It is disciplined waiting combined with deliberate preparation. While others rush to arrive, you refine capacity to remain. Remaining is underrated yet essential, because staying power determines legacy, not arrival speed. You are learning to build systems rather than reactions, habits rather than bursts, and principles rather than excuses. These constructions are invisible initially, but invisibility does not imply insignificance. Foundations operate unseen, yet hold everything. Your inner architecture is being strengthened, so external weight does not fracture you. This is why pressure was introduced gradually, to increase tolerance without overwhelming stability. Overwhelm fractures identity. Gradual challenge fortifies it. The divine prefers fortification. You may notice fewer emotional extremes now, not because passion faded, but because regulation matured. Regulation allows sustained output without collapse. You can care deeply without losing center, strive intensely without sacrificing peace, and this balance will distinguish you in environments addicted to extremes. People will sense reliability, not drama, clarity, not confusion, and gravitate accordingly. Leadership often begins as dependability before visibility. Trust forms when consistency replaces promises, and you are becoming consistent by honoring small commitments repeatedly. Small commitments compound into credibility. Credibility invites opportunity, and opportunity tests integrity. This cycle repeats at higher levels, each cycle requiring deeper self-awareness. You are not exempt from challenge. You are becoming equipped to navigate it without losing self-respect. Self-respect anchors decision-making, preventing compromises that deliver short-term gain at long-term cost. You are increasingly aware of long-term cost. This awareness informs restraint, and restraint is strength disguised as limitation. It preserves resources for moments that matter. You are learning to conserve energy, attention, and emotion, allocating them where return aligns with values. Values guide strategy. Strategy directs effort, and effort produces outcomes that endure. This chain replaces chaos with coherence.